We're a unique podcast for families of faith. Produced by parents and pastors who understand and appreciate how hard it is to maintain your faith in a hostile culture. We're here to encourage and support you in the most vital role of all, parenting. If you're feeling overwhelmed and afraid, it's okay. You're not alone. Brilliantly Brave is hosted by two honest and engaging dads with 9 kids between them. A road tripper, author, and pastor, Father Brad Matthias, and iShine founder, solo parenting expert, and all-around foodie, Mr. Robert Beeson. Join us each week as we explore and engage with some of the most intriguing, inspiring, outrageous, and awesome parents in the world. This is Brilliantly Brave.
Hi, and welcome to Brilliantly Brave Parenting. I'm your co-host, Pastor Brad Matthias, with my nutty sidekick, Robert Beeson.
Nutty, yeah.
You are nutty today.
Well, this nutty guy needs to point out that you really need to work on your open instead of saying hi. Like I don't even know what you sound like. It's not good though, Brad. It's not becoming on you.
It is. It's an authentic, genuine embrace. I am hugging the listeners with my voice. That's what it is.
In a very weird way.
No, it's not weird.
Yeah,
no,
it's kind of weird.
No.
So just like, hey, it's the podcast.
Hey, it's the podcast. Brilliantly Brave. Well, the problem is that no parent who's listening feels brilliant, and they're definitely not brave. Okay,
right.
They're going home to something tonight. They know it. They're coming into the door, and something's happened today, and they need this podcast, Robert. So I'm trying to soothe and encourage and support them, and you're just undermining me again.
I'm not undermining you. I'm just suggesting that maybe to make a better quality product, you should be more authentic and not act like, I don't know, like a talk show host or something. That's all. But let's keep moving into this.
Duly noted. I'll let you do the next intro.
We learn as we go, right?
Well, before we go on, why don't you try an intro? I'd love to hear how you greet our audience.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hey, it's Brilliantly Brave podcast. We're super excited today about what's going on. See, that sounds more like authentic. It's like, hey, kids, it's the Brilliantly Brave podcast.
I'm trying to be peppy. It's peppy.
Okay. All right.
Well, despite our differences of style, Robert is a good co-host, and I'm doing my best to be the host. You know, it is hard to be a parent, and as much fun as we have with our banter at the beginning of each of these podcasts, please know that we are sincere in our desire to encourage and strengthen parents. You know, parenting in a post-Christian culture is overwhelming. It's exhausting. And sometimes you feel like you're alone. Feel like there's just nobody else out there. And one of the great things about our podcast is we're introducing you to new people, new ministries, even new resources.
Absolutely.
Today is definitely one of those days.
Absolutely.
We have really something special to share with our audience today. It's a brother and sister from the St. Louis area, Zach Fay and Julie McWilliams. Welcome to Brilliantly Brave Parenting.
Hey, glad to be here.
Thanks so much. It's awesome being here.
We are really, really excited to have you on our podcast for season 2. And one of the things that as I was reading through your bio and looking at your histories, you guys have been really involved in creating something new, something that's not been before. Would you please tell our audience just a little bit about what you guys are up to, and then maybe we can go back and find out why?
Absolutely. We have created Lightgliders, and Lightgliders is a digital game world of Christian faith and fun for kids, and specifically kids before their teenage years. So we have targeted kids ages 6 to 12 and created them a digital game world for their smartphones, their tablets, the computer, basically trying to redeem the digital space for transformative and discipleship purposes.
Love that.
Yeah,
that's what led you to. I want to dig into the game itself a little bit later, but what drew you into wanting to? I think you said claim the digital space. What was it that drove you to see the need?
Well, both Julie and I have spent countless hours with kids, both in summer Christian camp counseling opportunities, and then as a former youth pastor. And we were realizing that the most critical years of where a kid's faith and values are formed are before the teenage years. The research supports that, and then our experience with junior high and high school kids supported that as well. So we started asking the question, how could we, in a culturally relevant and potentially global way, impact kids before their teenage years with the gospel? And using those two criteria of cultural relevance and global distribution, it actually led us to digital games.
That's fascinating. Now,
that is fascinating.
With obviously being around the youth groups and that kind of thing, you've seen firsthand how much influence media has over kids, and we live in this space too with iShine and what we do with the Tween Gospel Alliance. So we're very aware of that too. But for us, like you, it was very much a personal call because it affected our families as well as many other families in our country. So I really resonate with that. What were the first steps that you guys took in forming this organization?
Well, what was very impressive is, as you were saying, when you're dealing with younger kids that I feel like are missing out on being equipped at such a young age to know that they can be prayer warriors, that they can be leaders in school at a young age. And Zach really was burdened. I think the Lord really put this on him. And at first thought about writing almost a discipleship book, talking specifically about parents in the home and their role as disciplers. And we experienced this as brother and sister, having parents that really spoke into us, spent the time. And so at one point, Zach and our dad were going to write a book. And I think that is very effective, but it just wasn't meeting specifically the critical need of a child who maybe wouldn't be reading that book. That would be more for the parent. And then he even thought of almost like Christian conferences, like the Promise Keeper conferences for kids, which are phenomenal and so much fun and great for families.
It's like what iShine is doing, actually. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then the other thing was, how do you then keep that going in the home? And so we started seeing, and you're seeing this with kids at this young age, they are digitally connected and they're doing it daily. So that's where it was like, wait a minute, this could be something that we can incorporate all the knowledge that would be in a book and all the enthusiasm that can be in these conferences and be doing it every day at home, reinforcing a biblical worldview and then having parents being engaged with this as well. So it really was unique the way the Lord kind of formed this idea that this is the way we need to connect with these kids digitally and daily.
That's a tall order because it's, I mean, there are so many voices that we're competing with into the minds and hearts of our kids, and the tablet or the phone is absolutely kind of the language of choice, so to speak. Did you have the technical background to get into that, or was that are you native to that world? Or I know for us the thought of like starting a game or what, it was just like, oh boy, I think it's a better chance of landing on the moon than actually creating a digital game for us. So where did that come from?
Well, first of all, it's so good to know that God tells us that his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. So he gives us light for just the next step. And had we known what the journey would entail, there's no way we would have gone into this.
I understand.
So
thank goodness God is into tech, because we weren't.
Exactly.
I hear you.
So, basically what happened, and this was about a decade ago, I actually had some time to really research kids and was seeing, not being a digital native myself, I think the internet started becoming very popular in my high school years. And so, we've got this is a separate tangent to the conversation, but we've got such a challenge now with kids being digital natives and being able to use a tablet and phone at age 2 or 3. So it's a different world right now. But when I had time about 10 years ago to research what kids were doing, I was seeing the global popularity of these virtual world games where kids were creating characters and playing games and exploring and socializing and customizing unique spaces. And the trends were that these digital spaces, these digital games, were only going to increase in popularity. And so I had a challenge in front of me, and that challenge was, do I pursue this crazy dream of figuring it out and finding the tech talent to help produce this idea in my head, or do I do what would be probably the smarter choice, which is just go forget about it and go get a job. And so, so actually, and this goes along with the ethos of our company. I mean, our whole company, our product is built to, the whole goal of Lightgliders is to increase the number of meaningful conversations that kids are having with those who care about them the most. Because we are big. Yeah, that's our dream. I think the two things that bring about transformation in kids' lives are pivotal experiences and meaningful conversations. And so we wanted to use the digital space to increase and to leverage the digital time to maximize the quality time and the quality conversations that parents are having with their kids. And as Julie mentioned, I think we always have an affinity towards whatever it is the Lord brought, with whatever it is the Lord used to bring us to Him. And for us, it was our parents. It was a dad who put us to bed every night when we were young kids, and in those moments,
all the way through college, actually.
Really,
put you to bed all the way through college. Okay.
I mean, much. If we came home for summer, Dad still put you to bed.
That's a good point.
It didn't matter
Wow.
if you were 21 years old.
That's true. Being
that is seriously integrated.
Yeah,
You don't like mentioning.
I don't know if I
mentioned
mentioned that as public because I'm a dude, but at the same time, I guess you're right. Like it was those evening conversations, those moments before before going to bed, where we talked about scripture, we talked about our character values, we talked about
our dreams.
Yeah, the future. We talked about why the questions of what do you think God's doing right now, and how can we be a part of it? It was fascinating having those conversations as a young kid, and as Julie mentioned, as a college, as a high school and college student as well. And I will say, it was, when going back to the question, how did we kind of get started? It really was. It was Christmas of 2008 when I kind of had to make a decision, and I'll never forget. Dad gave me a Christmas card that year, and I assumed, because there was no present, it was just a card. I was assumed and was hoping that it would have some money in it, or a gift card, or something that would have some value to it financially, and it didn't. I opened the card and it said "Merry Christmas, Zach," and then it said 3 words: "Pursue this dream." And for me, that was the blessing of a father saying, really do this. And so that was when we decided, hey, let's try to pursue this crazy tech idea. And so we haven't looked back since. It's been a long journey, but even in that story, I realized how much the voice of a father and the voice of a mother can speak into a child's life and actually create, or help create, by God's grace, a new future.
I love that. And I love the distinction that you made that, and I think it's so critical that even though you are, in the digital space, you are putting a priority on the integration of what happens in the digital space being a part of a conversation, or at least facilitating a conversation with parents. It doesn't stay in that digital space, because I think as parents, it's one of the things that we're concerned about, is that our kids are just enveloped into this, into this world. And so I love that distinction, and I think that's great that you're doing that with Lightgliders. I do have a question for you, for those parents out there that, are not digital natives, that are a little bit threatened by the fact that our kids want to spend so much time in that space. And obviously we need to be careful. And I don't want to set you up to think that there's a right or wrong way to answer this question, but what would you say to those parents that are feeling some nervousness about how much time their kids are wanting to spend in that world? Not your world, but like digital world in general.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And here's what I would say to that. I'd say, statistically, the average kid is spending between 5 and 7 hours a day digitally connected, and less than 20 minutes in quality time with mom or dad every day. That's what the research says. That's what the statistics say. Obviously, depending on parenting styles, those numbers will be different.
Of course.
But what I will say is this, and you said it in your introduction, we're in a post-Christian culture right now, and kids are being bombarded with ideas every day that either reflect or distort reality or truth. And the fact of the matter is, digital experiences, whether we like it or not, if there are that many hours per day, they are shaping kids' worldview. And so all we want to do is redeem that and use it. If digital experiences can shape a kid's worldview, then let's use it to shape a biblical worldview that's grounded on total truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, he's preaching our stuff. Yeah, we drank that Kool-Aid. I think what we've all realized, Zach, I just want to commend you and your sister really for stepping out and doing something a little crazy, which I've found is typically a sign that God's in it. If it's crazy.
If it's beyond us.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just overwhelmingly too big to happen on our own, we're probably on the right track. I was just encouraged because what we've seen is that in this generation, about 80% of kids are leaving the church when they turn 18, statistically, according to Barna and the Orange Group and others. But they make the decision to leave before their 13th birthday. And they sort of hide that. That's sort of like sort of a silent thing.
I don't know if it's even conscious.
Yeah, their values have determined their worldview, as you put it. And so you've been in youth ministry. I read your bio. There are kids that act one way at church and another way at school. And it's sort of this dual personality develops in high school, often with youth groups in school. And so one of the things that we realize very quickly is that this cement that's still soft, that is their heart and their values, really hardens around 13. And so the area that you guys have been led to invest in, both I'm sure financially and with your lives, is strategic. And so I just want to remind our listeners, if you've got a preteen and you're looking for a place for them to spend time, this is a good place to start. Yeah, this is very cool. In fact, we have some other ministries we've worked with who've been in the digital space, but you're the youngest that I've seen as far as the preteen world. And so, Robert, I know our kids are growing up quite a bit, but there are a lot of listeners out there who would be looking for something safe for their kids to hang out at.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you're saying and what I've seen from the website, and I'd like to get into that a little bit more to talk about the experience, is that you can almost, I'm a big believer in any kind of media that there are surrogate characters that are either created or that you identify with that are in either a virtual world or in a film or whatever. And I love that, Club Penguin started this a long time ago where you create your own avatars and all that kind of thing. But I think from what I've seen, what I like about you is you actually have created, it's not just a gaming platform, but it is actually something that seems more personalized. And so I would like to talk a little bit more specifically about, because I'm sure parents out there are interested to know, okay, well, what is this? Is it just is this dirt bikes riding up and down mountain? I mean, what is this, shooting zombies? Talk to us about the framework of what you guys have created, the world that you've created, and some of the intentions behind that.
Well, everything in Lightgliders was designed to do 5 things. Number 1, teach a biblical worldview. Number 2, encourage prayer and reflection. Number 3, give kids a vision for real world service. Number 4, create catalysts for meaningful conversations with mom or dad or anyone who's investing in that kid relationally, emotionally, or spiritually. And then number 5, to have fun. Because
don't forget that. Yeah,
exactly. And so we started from the very beginning, really asking, how can we create a product or a product offering and that does all those things? And we really looked at the kids market, and we decided we wanted to create a very aspirational brand. And that's what Lightgliders is. That's fun and engaging. And so in Lightgliders, it's basically a parabolic world where every kid who becomes a Lightglider learns to respect rescue, and restore. Those are the gameplay goals of Lightgliders. And then at the same time, they're learning the values that are associated with a biblical worldview: purpose, humility, confidence, hope, and love. And if you look at those closer, those come from the creation, fall, redemption, restoration, and then ultimately the cross. That's where those 5 values come from. And every Lightglider learns about each of those things. And then specifically, we've created 7 leaders in Lightgliders. They all have unique gifts, unique passions, strengths, weaknesses, and they all come from a different part of the world so that kids could catch a global perspective, but then also see or find a role model, someone they could relate to, because the tagline of Lightgliders is, "You were made to shine." And so we want kids to realize that with the distinct personality they've been given, with the unique gifts they've been given, they were uniquely created. They are the handiwork of God, uniquely created to love Him and to love others in a way that only they can. And so we want kids everywhere, all around the world, to recognize that and to look, even at ages 8, 9, 10 years old, look for how they can use what God's given them to shine in the world today.
I love that.
Yeah, as I'm looking at your website and kind of checking out some of the cool stuff you guys have done, the way that you can customize this is just exactly right where it needs to be, I think, for kids, as far as what their expectations would be. And so a lot of times with Christian media, you sort of cringe when you see it, like, ugh.
It's like the adult version of a kid.
It's like, that was probably a little off. But with what you guys are doing, I really think parents will be pleasantly surprised when they see the website and they see the attention to detail. I also think kids are going to love it. And so if you've got a preteen, especially 8, 9, 10 years old, is that the sweet spot? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we go as young as 6 and 7 and then all the way up to 12. But yeah, I would say the sweet spot is, kind of that 7 to 10, 7 to 11-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what's impressive for the kids is not only are they getting to play mini games, and they can also meet in the Lightgliders Academy and meet their friends there and chat and goof around and kind of go into we call it the yonders, and battle the machines and collect the glittles and do all these kind of fun leveling things, which kids think are a blast. But they also are getting to what you just said. They get to decorate their treehouse and change their costumes, and then they get to go do the reflective things where they get to spend some time in prayer. They learn what the leaders in the academy are teaching that day about either evangelism or being on mission or being a servant leader. And so you're watching them read the stories and watch the videos about these leaders, see where they also are wired that way, spend some time in reflective prayer, and then even journal, which has been really amazing to hear from kids, these 9-year-old girls who are coming home from school just going into Lightgliders to write in their journal about their day.
Wow.
And it's all private, and it's an opportunity for them to learn journaling and also write down their thoughts and talk to the Lord a little bit about it. And then my favorite as a mom is I get an email from Lightgliders that tells me what they're learning in the game and gives me significant questions and conversation starters to use with my kids at the dinner table or the car ride home or right before bed. So as a parent, I'm not necessarily playing the game. I can see them doing that. I could join them in the game, but just with the margin of a parent, honestly, this email equips me for conversations during the day that link to the game. So the kids kind of think I know what's going on, but it's actually really meaty conversations. So I know they're learning about servant leadership. So now my question is, how are you doing that at school? Or what was a way that you could do that in the neighborhood? And so we as a company are equipping parents with a curriculum every week on what they can choose to do with their kids. And now that we're mobile on iPads and phones, parents are actually doing this at night before bed. Almost the conversations that our dad had with us, he didn't have an iPad back then, but now kids are able to watch with their parent the 1-minute devotional and then go through the reflection question with their kids. So
that's huge.
Empowering parents, which is so important. Empower the parents today.
Julie, I'm so glad you shared that.
Absolutely.
That's massive, because I think one of the things, like I said a little earlier, is the digital space scares some parents because it's a different world that we don't necessarily understand. We're not native to that, and even if we believe that there's a faith-spaced digital world, we're still kind of tuned out to what's going on. And the fact that you equip parents to actually know not only the messages, but just kind of what's happening in that space, that's a massive distinction, I think.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I don't know of another game like that.
Yeah, no, I have not heard of that. So that's a lot of work. So, as the operations guy for iShine, I just immediately go to default. Wow, that's a lot of work. So I can't help but notice in your story, you are siblings. You started the entire podcast talking about the fact that your dad invested in you with meaningful conversations. Mm-hmm. And now you've created this ministry / digital world that mimics what you experienced. Mm-hmm. You're helping other families now have meaningful conversations through this digital game world. I can't help but see that translation as I'm listening to your story. You guys have sort of carried on, passed the torch, if you will, from your father to you and now to another generation. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to work together as siblings, because I think that's really cool.
Do you love it?
I do. I absolutely do. In fact,
tell us how it happens.
Tell us how it happened.
I don't imagine you guys have any fun, do you?
Okay.
So basically, when I decided to pursue this idea, I was living in Virginia at the time. And so, I was home for Christmas when Dad gave me that card that said, "Pursue this dream." And so in January of 2009, I started reading a book called Designing Virtual Worlds. And I am way over my head because I'm like, what am I doing? I am now reading books about how to create these digital spaces, and I have zero background. And I still remember it was probably around March of 2009. Julie called me, and she could just tell that I was an island out there in Virginia, trying to figure out how to do this. And she said, "Zach, if you move back to our hometown, I will help you." And she made good on that promise. I moved back in 2 months later, and we started working together the next week. And I'll tell anyone. I know this isn't necessarily a podcast about startups, but if it was, I would say that the two things you really need if you're going to pursue a startup or really pioneer anything is perseverance and encouragement. And Julie has been that encourager, or one of the many encouragers, but she's also been a real partner. And so together we started traveling to game design conferences. We started interviewing game design studios. We started, talking through design ideas together. And Julie's got one of the best gifts with kids of anyone I've ever met. And so what's great is I can always find out from her what's fun. And so I think it was Julie who really said, "Hey, we got to put these characters on hoverboards because being on a hoverboard is a lot more fun than just walking from room to room." So even the whole Lightgliders brand, the idea that you get to get on a hoverboard and kind of live out the dream of Back to the Future 2. There's just ideas like that have been from Julie, but more than anything, it's been the encouragement along the way. We've always had a great rapport. In fact, going back to the idea that you need to always have, we want to give kids role models. I'll be really honest, as a young kid, Julie and I are 6 years apart. I know I look older than her, but she's actually 6 years older than me. And I always looked up to her as someone who was going to make a difference no matter where she was for Christ. So Julie is someone who in her high school was the president of her class every year, was the captain of the sports teams, and was involved in everything. and it wasn't a Christian school, but she was doing it in a way where she was making an impact by being a friend, by being an encourager, by doing things with excellence, and then ultimately by being really a missionary. I mean, she was there pointing people to Christ. And I remember being 6 years younger, looking up to that example and saying, I want to do that. And actually, that is how we created the 7 student leaders. And that's why the student leaders in Lightglider Academy look a little older than the average 8 or 9 year old. We want every kid, if they don't have a Julie, if they don't have someone that they're looking up to, we want to give them that, someone that they can look up to and say, hey, wait, I'm now catching a vision of what I want to be in life. And it may not look exactly like that, but that's an example that I want to learn from. And the thing is, kids at those young ages, they make mental notes without really even realizing it. And so that's why I really believe in role models. And you know, Julie has been a big role model for me. And it's really funny now because now we work together and we're peers. But as a young kid, she was the example that I wanted to follow.
Well, now I feel like the roles have switched also, where the Lord really dropped this idea on Zach, and he's extremely intelligent and has persevered like unbelievably. And so I do feel like almost like the calling has been put on him, almost like a Moses. And I've been like the Aaron, where I'm like, I will hold your hands up. And I like talking. So I will be there. But this has really been what the Lord has impressed on him to see it through. And what a pleasure to be alongside. What a pleasure. It's been spectacular.
Well, you can tell the rapport that you guys have together just by seeing you. And I love the fact that we're actually on video rather than, just audio, because you can't, you can pick up on body language and I can tell that there is a unity with you guys. And I have to say, the one thing that keeps coming back to me, Julie, is that I think that not only all the creativity and the support and the encouragement, but what you said earlier about the way moms look at this is a critical component to the gaming world. Because I think, I'm not a designer and I don't play games necessarily, but what I do know is that the parents are worried, like I said, about what's going on with their kids. And so the fact that you bring a lot to this perspective, from my opinion, that is beyond just the game, and it's just a sensitivity to what a mom is thinking is happening, in her house. So I think what a great team you guys make, and I'm so thrilled for our listeners to go check out this world. Who is behind you there? Is that just your normal wallpaper in your office, or do we have people with us that you want to introduce?
Well, these are, we have 2 of the leaders of the 7 leaders. So behind me is Tambika. She actually leads the academy. She runs the academy. She's a logistical.
She's Julie. I'm going to be really honest with you.
I love her. I love Tambika. So she's the detail-oriented person. She's very much keeps things in order. And I love the way these characters have been created, because she also gets a little stressed about that. So we're real, in our characters here. And then in the middle is one of our gliddles, and these are the little characters throughout the game that are so much fun, and these are what the kids absolutely love, is these gliddles. And they rescue them when they're out in the yonders. They collect them, and they decorate a treehouse just for them. So the gliddles bring a lot of joy. They're in a lot of the videos. They do a lot of songs. They're fun. And then behind Zach is Bryce. And Bryce is basically the guy who is the bold evangelist. He is the one who wants to go therefore and make disciples. And so when you look at his gifting, he is on mission, and his key word is go. Tambika is kind of the one who is settled where she is, and she wants to lead and equip. And then you learn about the other characters, and this is what I think is fascinating, and it's, again, great for parents and the role model concept, because each gifting is different. And what I thought as a kid, and it is a little bit the way I'm wired, is that you needed to be upfront and communicating, and that's how you make an impact. And honestly, if you're wired that way and that's your gifting from the Lord, do it and make an impact for him. But some people are not wired that way, and you'll see in Lightgliders Academy other characters such as Nisha and Tova. And Nisha is a servant leader. She's very quiet, and she has a gift of hospitality and serving. And you cannot minimize that gift. Nothing would happen if Nisha wasn't there planning it behind the scenes. And you know this with any kind of organization, specifically church. If we don't have those people who are getting everything together, there is no place for Bryce to get up and speak. True. And so you realize that people like Nisha, or we even have Quan, who is our tactician and our technical expert. He's brilliant. And so he may be in the lab the whole time working on things for the academy. And you're so thankful for a guy like that, because we wouldn't be equipped for things if he wasn't working on these gadgets. And so, again, kids are seeing all these characters, and they're going to start to realize, hey, wait, the Lord made me specific. Not only did he make me for a reason, but for such a time as this. They're here now in this digital age. And I honestly think that they can change the world because they have access to the world right now because of the internet. And so I just think when they start to realize these giftings, although each one is different, it's the whole body, and it can be used to glorify the Lord. So it's just, these are excellent and fun characters that, again, parents are going to be able to talk to their kids about and say, hey, do you know you're kind of wired a little bit like Tova? You love to be a missionary. You always help the person who seems to be alone at school. You're the one who goes and likes to give food to the people at the homeless shelter. Like, that's something that Tova would do. And so I just think that kids are going to start to connect, and then parents are going to be able to connect with their kids through these characters.
I love that. And I know we've spent this is a little bit of a longer podcast going into the depths of this, but I'm so glad that we have, because there are so many complexities to this world that you've created and the characters that it's just incredible how well thought out these characters and these guides are. I haven't heard anything like this before. I mean, and the graphics, whoever does your graphics, I mean, it's very current. It's up to par with anything Disney, or it's just well done. I'm incredibly impressed.
Yeah, I am too. And as a pastor, I can't help but be excited that you're modeling leadership in multiple ways. Because it's really a problem when people only see leadership as a certain style, that type A personality, or, behind a pulpit with the pastor alone is the leader. As a pastor, that's a pet peeve. So I love it when you are instilling those truths at a young age, and you're encouraging people. You lead from the gifts and the strengths that God's given you. You don't have to be like anyone else. So what a great message. Yeah. Well, Robert, I think we're about out of time.
But it's been well spent, right? Yeah, I think that, I would encourage any of our listeners to, why don't you guys pitch us, what would a listener out there who's never heard of this before, where would they go? How would they find out more?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, just go to www.lightgliders.com, or you can download the app in the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. And actually, we have there's a promo code right now at 10 off Lightgliders. If you use the promo code 10 off Lightgliders, you can get 10% off any subscription. But even more than that, you can actually check out Lightgliders completely for free just by clicking visit as a guest. So when you go to lightgliders.com, you click enter Lightgliders and click visit as a guest, and you can check out some of the components of this world, because it's a whole world filled with games and videos and activities. It's our dream is for it to be a one-stop shop of digital discipleship and fun, so that the kids find stuff fun in there all the time. There's new content every week. There's really hours and hours of gameplay and activities. But then also, as Julie mentioned, we really have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how can we put the tools in the hands of the parents. So there's a parents blog that talks about what's going on in the game each week. As Julie mentioned, there's emails that go out to Lightglider parents every week with the lessons. There's actually a family discipleship calendar on our parents page that anyone can download right now. If you go to www.lightgliders.com, and at the bottom of the page, you'll see parents page. Just click there. There's a family discipleship calendar that'll give you really 3 months of curriculum of what's going on in Lightgliders. So really, our primary goal is to impact kids, but our secondary goal is to equip parents to have these conversations during what the research says are the most critical years.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm so glad you've made a fan out of me, and I can't wait to get on my iPad and check this out, because we did the research for the show, but I didn't go as deep as I really want to explore and encourage all of the parents to do the same.
I want Robert to get on a hoverboard. I think that would be
Yes!
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Thanks, you guys. God bless you, and thanks to our audience for tuning in. We're excited to see what God does through you next.
Thank you, guys.
Well, I'm still processing. Robert, we come across stuff all the time in Nashville. We're kind of the epicenter of the Christian music and media thing. I've not seen anything like Lightgliders.
I haven't either.
Where it's really engaging, it's fun, and it's safe for parents. But then there's this back end built into it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I had no idea.
I mean, what a cool thing. I mean, for a parent to be able to engage their kid with spiritual content that's actually just provided to them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to, who has the time to go do a devotion, right? I mean, and then you get this in your inbox. I could have done that. I'm thinking back, I could have done that. I've got a grandchild coming, I definitely need to tell my daughter about this.
It's so, I'm not just blowing smoke here, because we do see a lot of things.
I've seen you blow smoke. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Brad. But in all honesty, we've seen all kinds of things, and the thought, not just the creativity that's gone into this, but the character development. Look at me when I'm talking to you.
I don't like to.
The character development that's been put into not only the world, but the guides, and then the integration into the parents' world. I have not seen anything like this before, and so I'm so excited that they were on with us today, and looking forward to continuing our relationship with them.
Yeah, and as a pastor and a parent, I'm watching siblings, right? I'm seeing a brother and sister. That wasn't always a cozy thing. There were struggles in that family with those two getting along. And then you see this heritage of faith that a father passed on to his kids, and then the sort of the endless ripple of that. So now they're connected to their faith. They've raised families that are connected to their faith, and now they've created something that's impacting thousands and tens of thousands of families.
Right. So what happens at home, putting your kids to bed, can have
this massive impact. Yeah. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, we think, well, I can't, what can I do to change the world? And the answer is tuck your kids in.
Right. Be authentic.
Yeah. Just consistent. Just be that consistent voice in your kid's life, and watch what God does with that. And I'm sure that their father had no idea that his dedication, his consistency to really invest in his kids every night before they go to bed would translate into what it is today.
Yeah, who knows? It's certainly larger than we imagine.
It's pretty inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, before we go, I did have just a brief side talk with Winston.
Oh my goodness.
And I think he's getting into this. So
I know he's getting
he's really starting to tell me more. I have to tell him
he won't eat dry dog food anymore.
Oh well, I could have something to do with that. I've had to up the ante a little with the snacks.
With the cheese.
Yeah, the cheese, and now he wants a certain kind of cheese. He's really into the white cheeses, not the yellow.
And he tells you this, right?
Well, he does in certain ways. Yeah.
Okay.
But the one thing that he's sort of into discovering the fact that there are lots of other animals in the world. And, so he's starting to tell me random animal facts. I would be fascinated with that. And usually I'm not, but today I was.
Okay. What did he say?
So I'm going to share it with you guys.
Okay.
Did you know that ostriches do not bury their heads in the sand?
Yes, I did know that.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
Where's the stereotype come from? What is that? This is it's like fake news.
What they do is they bury their eggs in the sand, and so they can appear like they have their heads in the sand. So I did know that. Of course, I grew up in Africa, so that might give me...
Did you know almonds are members of the peach family?
I did.
Wow, you're 2 for 2 today.
I did know that. Yeah.
Well, you are a foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't know how that's possible, but okay.
It is possible.
So almond is a nut, peach is a fruit. I don't get that. Is an almond a fruit?
Pizza is not a fruit.
Peaches.
Oh, peaches, yes.
Peaches.
Well, inside a peach is a nut. Think about that.
It's called the seed, right?
An almond is a seed.
So is an almond a fruit or is a peach a nut?
It's related to the peach.
You don't know.
I do know.
Well, there we go. And so I'm going to ask Winston about that and get back to you all. It's always amazing.
Did you know that cucumber is actually a grain?
I did not. I think you made that up.
You have to look it up.
I'll talk to Winston. Okay. I'll get back to you. So, here's the big picture. The bigger picture before we go. Brilliantly Brave Parenting is a podcast, and it is designed by two crazy men who've raised 9 kids. We did it all wrong. God still worked in our kids' lives. But whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, God is big enough for that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you walked into. I don't know what you're about to come home to, but do it with God. Don't try and do that by yourself. And be shocked. Be amazed at what he can do in your brokenness. So with those final thoughts, please stop by iTunes, rate us, subscribe. We'd love for you to follow us and be a regular part of this community of faith. Join us next week as we talk with Dean Deal. Dean Deal is the vice president at Provident Music Group. He's also a college professor. He's teaching about business. He's teaching about the secular impacts on the Christian society. He is an intellect, he's a grandfather, and he's a friend. So don't miss this one. Next week, Brilliantly Brave Parenting, the podcast.
Parents, remember, even if you may not feel brilliant or brave, you are. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed. I am convinced that he is able to guard until that day what has been entrusted to me. 2 Timothy 1:7 and 13. This podcast is a service of iShine Ministries and the Tween Gospel Alliance. All rights reserved. Donations to Brilliantly Brave are tax deductible at iShineLive.com. Review and subscribe to this podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or on our webpage. And read our blog and connect with us at WordPress@BrilliantlyBrave.com. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Brilliantly Brave.
iShine is a faith-based ministry and media company that looks and feels a lot like a Christian version of Disney. iShine is more than entertainment. We're the producer of the largest Christian tween TV series in the world, a nationally syndicated radio show, a Nashville-based record label, host to multiple live tours and summer festivals, an interactive website and social media, and a provider of printed and digital devotionals, preteen Bibles, and church curriculums. But more than anything, we're a trusted Christian resource for parents and pastors. You can turn to us for all things tween. Check us out at iShineLive.com.